Hi there and welcome back to the Spirit of Watercolor. And hi, Linda's back. Good to see you. And glad you're coming back to paint watercolor with me and enjoy this spiritual journey. I thought it would be wonderful to kind of go into the galaxy, into the cosmos. And yes, I have some non-brush type techniques we can use again as we've been exploring these things. Now I have these wonderful powder paints that are from Daniel Smith, and they're like metallic, they're dry, and instead of we couldn't apply them with a brush and spatter and flick them. We could drop them on and we could create some, galaxy-like paintings, being out in space, and it's a wonderful way to sort of leave the planet, if you will, and to meditate and to find just a lovely way to explore watercolor as well, and the many options we have beside our brush techniques. So I have these metallic paints, and I have 4 colors. I have Egyptian gold, pale gold, and autumn gold. So they're all different, so the pale one is more of a cool yellow gold, something lighter, and then the Egyptian is much warmer. I think there's some silver in there. And then there's the German silver, which is sort of a warm. Those are just the ones I chose. I think you can still purchase these. They probably still sell them. I've had them so long, I'm not sure, so I will check into that. And then the other thing I would like to use, well, I don't know how good my samples are, but I have some where I used some of these golds. It's very dark, so this is not the greatest. These are very old studies I did. I think for classes I used to teach downtown Ann Arbor here. And then here's another where it's got some of the more warm coppery golds in there. And these are really just non-representational. I wasn't really trying to do the universe, but moving in that direction, and I think we'll really move in that direction today. I don't think I showed this one yet. And these all have the gold in them. Now I also use the interference paints, which are sort of these shimmery holographic type paints. They do come in tubes, okay? And I may put some of that in as well, but I want to do a separate video that has to do with interference paints by Daniel Smith also, and the iridescent and the duochrome paints, which are not your typical pigmented watercolors. These kind of, like I say, it's like a shimmer. It's not a glitter. If it is, it's a very subtle adult type glitter, not like the glitter we use in children's art, which is beautiful too, and you could do that. But these are a very wonderful way to add sort of that holographic effect, sort of dimension to the paintings, and they're just beautiful as well. And there's a lot of them, so there's more colors than I'm using. I just typically go to the same ones. The pearlescent shimmer, your interference blue, and interference copper are my favorites, but there's a red, a blue, there's a lot of them that are very beautiful. Okay, so here I am with my palettes and my sketch pad, and I'm going to use some spatial blue colors and some mix in some of this brown to get a dark. If you want to make something like a black or a dark, I always go for the old brush for some reason. It works until it falls apart. And so I have these lovely deep blues and some purples, and I'm going to bring in, like I said, some of this sienna. I've got some new colors from the Sennelier paints, and I need to use them and find out, what they do, because I'm used to my old and wonderful Daniel Smith paints, but sometimes it's good to try some different brands. When I blend this in, I keep getting too low, sorry. I get some deeps and some darks. I don't want it to go too into the black. I want it to have some complexity and beauty of color. I need to pull out a lot more blue for my own love of blues. I have a wonderful, I always like cobalts, but I also have a wonderful
phthalo that I rarely have not used in quite a while. Okay, so those are some pretty colors to make spatial painting with. And then I have my interference paints, and you can't really tell by looking at these. They don't look that different, but the pearlescent shimmer won't have a lot of color going over top of the blues and the purples. It'll be very different. You'll see the effects they do. And the copper, interference copper, it's a little more coppery warm. And then there's the blue up here, interference blue. It's actually up here. I don't know what that blue is. And then I have up higher, I have some of this duochrome autumn autumn something paint that is another Daniel Smith. They're beautiful. I don't know if I'll go into that because it's a different effect than the interference paints. And so I've just got that because I keep this separate from my other palette because they do get all over into stuff, and you kind of want to keep them as separate and just use them when you want to use them. And then I have my wonderful powder paints, and I'll show you the different ways I use these. And then I have 4 of those, right? I remember I told you about those. And I will use some of the silver and the gold and the yellow gold. I'm going to try a little bit of each of those and just maybe toss some in there to the colors and see what happens. And then I'm actually remembering another non-brush, but it's a brush, but it's not a paintbrush, it's a toothbrush. And you can take your white paints and you can do dipping and spattering, like spatter, and get a spray of little stars, which I've seen other people do on videos. And I may want to add that if I need it, but I really, I could even spatter some of the interference on. That could really be fun because you get the tiny little dots from that. Okay? All right, so let's see. I want to begin by wetting my paper, and I have not done an intergalactic or whatever you call it spatial painting in a long time, but I just want to wet my paper because we're going to get pretty wet on wet. And this is a small area just to work with, so we can kind of explore what all these wonderful kinds of paints can do, and make our interspatial painting. I might put a little pink in because I've got some gorgeous rhodonite genuine, I think, and some other beautiful, gorgeous Daniel Smith colors that I have used forever, and they're on here as well as these new Senneliers. Okay, I like my pointed round. I get a little more control, which over the years I've found I actually enjoy. It's still a pretty big brush, okay, and I may just really start to get, these paints to start to move and spread onto this paper, and we'll get some beautiful spacey effects going. Okay. And I will try to keep my head out. That's always a challenge with these eyes. Let me turn myself a little bit. And, wet on wet is just a most wonderful, free-flowing, and it's a test of how much can you not control things, because you know what? Life is so much where we are trying to control life, and there's so much we cannot control. But in our world, here on the paper, you have a certain amount of control, but you also want to not be too controlling. I mean, I'm not sure how this is going to go and what's going to happen. I'm going to put in a little purple now, okay, and bring some of that in. Remember the variegated wash painting we did? I got a lot of views on that. For some reason, people are really interested in what that is and what you're doing. Well, that's where these paints are running into each other, okay? And they're more glorious to me if, the more intense color you put on there and let them run together, the better. So that makes me think, and some people, they just keep adding more and more layers. I like to start pretty concentrated and see how much color I can get on here sometimes. I'm going to go for a little more of that blacky stuff here. Let's see. Darks. Because it's in my outer space world, it's different values of blues and purples and maybe some darks, which some people call black, right? And it's going to vary in value, which is, of course, what we want, okay? The bigger the brush you use, like I have a big flat or a big pointed. I have this nice big Cheap Joe's Golden Fleece. It also has tape on most of my old brushes have tape all around because the ferrules. I'm pretty hard on my brushes. Whoa, I got some green in there. know where that came from. Oh, it came from the brush. Well, that's pretty. Happy accidents can happen as well. I meant to get purple, so let me go for that. Getting a lot of drip down my palette there, but that's okay. This is a beautiful purple, and I believe that is an amethyst, which is a Daniel Smith Primatech. I get that confused with my... It's a much more intense purple compared to the Carbazzo, which I tend to use on my regular palette. This is a new palette. It's palette number 2, John Pike palette number 2, because my other one, I just love the paints. They're my old reliables that I always use there. Look at those paints running together. It's just fabulous. But keep some whites or lights in your painting, okay, because that adds some beauty as well. I am really debating the pink in there. Do I want that? This is awful pretty just watching these paints flow together, isn't it? I'm going to rinse my brush well. Notice, I don't know, I think you can see I have 2 palettes. I always have, 2 big buckets of water. These are from my husband's cottage cheese. I've told you about that. And they're big, and I can put a lot of water in them. And I like to rinse with one, and then, you know, if I really want to get that brush cleaned up, I go into the other one. I always have a paper towel. Oopsie. This is a slanted board because that way the gravity, I can control it a little bit. And I can move and dip my board. That's why I have the paper on this board, okay, because I like having control over the gravity, okay. I want to get those corners before they dry. Yeah, because this is just all about being in space. There's some lovely granulation in some of the paints there. That might be the Primatech, the amethyst purple one has, okay. The rhodonite, which is another lovely Primatech, which is, I guess we're learning about some of my paints too. You might want to try these yourself. There's these beautiful, the Primatech, the rhodonite doesn't have sediment granulation, but a lot of the Primatechs do, because they're just made from minerals. Like I said, this is the spiritual journey, and I really like the Primatechs because they really are from the what do you call it? From the earth. They're just pigments natural from the earth. They're not synthetic or chemically made in the laboratory like a lot of our paints are today, which are still beautiful and they're very safe to use. Which is the benefit of those, that you don't have things in them like cadmium and so forth nowadays, because people don't like what threats some of these chemicals can do to our system if we're inhaling or exposed to them all the time. And then if I want to make it run, my board, and I can move my spatial cosmos around a little. Those granulations are really nice. I don't even know if I need to worry too much about what was I going to say? I got a little too wet, but we'll turn the board around. Yeah. I just put on some relaxing, spatial sounding music to enjoy, to help me relax painting. And I tend to really, tell people that's really always in my classes. I always kept some nice music going that would kind of set the mood for what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to bring in more strong color, because as this is starting to dry a little, and I can have a little bit more control over those wets going in. Isn't this fun? Should I drop in some gold in a minute and see what happens? But I kind of want to get a little stronger values going. All right. Again, this is just to kind of set the stage and see where things go. I can always add more color as I go also. So I have some powders, powder paints. This is pale gold. Let's try a little silver. That's autumn gold. That's pretty too. What's this one? Looking for my German silver. That's Egyptian gold. What do you think? It's real warm. I'm gonna go a little silvery. I'll add a little more pink in here before I do that. Again, this is all very spontaneous, so I'm being surprised along with you sometimes when I'm bringing colors in and what's going on. But, you know, it can be still the joy of painting here. I like to lift off my edges here, my drips, so I can really kind of keep an eye on what my painting is kind of doing. So I was debating taking like a drier brush. That might be fun. And then we'll toss in a little. Here's the German silver. Let's look at that one. I hope my lights are good. And I'll grab a drier brush just for fun. Needs a point, in my opinion. There's this like number 6. It's pointed around. I'm just getting a little paint on there just to see. Ooh, what it's going to do in the wet on wet. Yeah. Ooh. I don't know if you can see some of that. Oh, wow. Okay. I might try another color as well. I'm still keep moving the paints around a little. Flicking a little more in. I could have done that with my fingers, or anything. Even just a little tiny brush, you know, if you want just some more specific lines, right? Or like I say, you know, you could grab it with, I haven't grabbed it with my fingers, but you know, you could. Ooh, okay. So let me try a little bit of that. If that's German silver, that's kind of a warm silver. I'm going to try something else a little bit warmer still. Which is this one? Autumn gold? Or Egyptian gold. That sounds more fun, the Egyptian gold. Let me see if I can grab that one. I think I put it, that was the pale gold over here. Let's try the, is this the Egyptian gold? Yep. I don't know what that one is like. I'm going to try it. Don't want too much. Getting a little over the top with this gold right now. Oh, that's much more coppery. Ooh, pinky, like copper. Wow. That's nice. I wish I could get those lines out, but I don't know. Oh, and I can really powder it. It just went like mist on there. Wasn't that fun? Oh. Okay. Now, I think what I'm going to do, because I don't know how to get this off my brush without making a mess. I have a damp towel. Get as much of that off as I can before I put it. If I put it in my water, it's going to get all in the water, but that's why I've got 2 of those buckets. Let's do something fun now. I'm going to take the interference paints here and see if you can see what I've got here so far. Let's see if I can get some of those drips to move a little. This here is kind of too defined for me. Help that to move a little. Whoa, yes. Okay, I love it. Oh, that's pretty. That is nice. Okay, and then the interference paints, again, that could be for a whole other video. And we could do more than one cosmos painting, I suppose, so maybe that's a good idea. But you can certainly see what those do. Now I'm just going to look at these. These are my the pearlescent shimmer, interference copper, which is probably going to look a lot like that the Egyptian gold. Ooh, I really think that's quite stunning, just the way it is. I'm wondering if I'm going to leave it the way it is. Let's let it set up for a minute. Because it's beautiful, right? I like some of that. I'm kind of looking at some blue on my palette that I could maybe toss a little into this little area here. I got a little, spread it out a little. I can still control some of that, some of these, make them move a little more like little meteors or comets out there in space, if you will. It's my world, so and it's yours. So isn't that beautiful, though? Okay, I'm gonna just put a tiny dot of. Let's try the interference blue. It's one of my favorites. If I can figure out which one it is, because they all look alike on my palette. I think this might be it. Next time I'll put these in the proper order so I completely do know. Let's see. Okay, so as our piece is drying, I think it might be quite fun to put in a little bit of stars like I have actually seen others, and I'm, again, non-brush because it's not typical brush. And yes, I did use brush with these paints, but you don't have to. Like I said, you could just sprinkle it like salt with your fingers. So I've got some. Now you can use acrylic paint. Some people have done that. I've got what I call it is called opaque watercolor paint, and I'm going to try and spatter. This stuff's pretty opaque, but I need to get it just right, and I haven't used a toothbrush in a long. This is a very old toothbrush, so I'm hoping I can spatter some stars there now that it's setting up and drying more. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. I saw someone actually use like a device, like a stick or a pencil or something to do it. Oh, I know. I have an old brush that's beat up and it's so full of masking fluid it doesn't work like a brush anymore. So maybe I can just flick some of this and get some stars. Ooh, I don't know. I'm going to use my fingers. I might get more what I want. Might be a big mess. Ooh. That works better, but I'm going to need to clean up. Well, okay. Now, I might have to go back into those blues. We'll see. Or the whites where it's not too big. But that's really kind of pretty. It's more outer spacey now. That is for sure. Except for the big white blobs, but whoa. So yeah, you do have to really spatter it, and I don't know if I should have wore my apron. There are some things going on the planet that are just not happy things, and some very concerning things, and I thought today is the best day for us to kind of, work toward a most peaceful inner and for me a prayerful time for people who may be struggling on this planet today, and that our positive energies will maybe reach out to them and at least keep some of us where we can be thankful of where we are and what we have. And so if you look at our galaxy painting, it's really quite lovely. I think I feel like I'm really in another world.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was certainly a fun journey exploring space with you today, and I hope that you learned some things about new ways to approach your paints with the very wet on wet and with the interference paints and the metallic paints. And let me know what you think. Comment in the video below, and if you have any thoughts or suggestions, let's keep on going. I want to get more into the interference, the duochrome, and the iridescent paints. They are just beautiful, and I think you'll like to see some of the things that you can do with those. So thank you for watching. I will put a photo up of this finished once I get this. I guess it was still pretty wet, but it's quite beautiful and quite spatial. Maybe I'll put it behind me and you can see it that way. Okay, keep on coming, and let's watch for the next exciting paint videos with these wonderful colors and pigments. And I'm so glad you joined me on this spiritual journey again today, and I'll see you soon. Bye!